2018 CED Grantee Capacity Building Series. This series consists of live webinar-based learning opportunities, as well as information and resources and opportunities to engage with your program specialist and expert technical assistance providers. This series is designed to give you the support that you need to successfully execute your CED projects. So keep an eye out for weekly emails that update you about upcoming events and provide important information for your grants. I'm Whitney Marsland from ICF, and I'm joined here today by Karen Harris from the Office of Community Services. Like all of the presentations in this series, today's webinar is being recorded, and you'll be able to access the recording on the CED website. And we'll provide you with more information on accessing these materials following the presentation. We'll also be taking questions during this webinar. You can submit a written question through the Q&A feature in the WebEx platform, and we'll address it at the end of today's call. When you submit a question, you'll want to ensure that you select the Send to All Participants, all panelists option, and I'll remind you on how to do that at the end of the call as well. So now I will turn it over to Karen to get us started.
Thank you, Whitney. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. And hello, everyone, and welcome to today's seminar. I'm Karen Harris, and I am a Community Development Program Specialist in the Office of Community Services. Today, our webinar should provide you with information about some minor changes that we've made to the Performance Progress Report. When you log on to OLDC to submit your reports for the period of March 31st, 2018, you'll see the changes to the report in the system. The PPR has been updated to clarify the language to ensure that you, our grantees, are better able to understand the report. A few of the outdated indicators were removed, and a few existing indicators were updated, and a few new indicators were added to the report. So these changes should result in a stronger, more streamlined PPR that should allow clarity for you, the grantees. Should also allow increased consistency across the data that you report, and it will allow the ability for OCS and you, the grantee, to better demonstrate the impact of your CED projects. Today's webinar will provide you with a review of the forms and the indicators within the PPR. It will also provide you with the timeline for reporting dates. It should remind you how to gain access to OLDC. This webinar should also highlight the specific changes for each of the PPRs, and it will let you know where you can find additional resources and support for your upcoming PPR submission. Now I'll hand it back to Whitney. Thank you very much, Whitney.
Thank you, Karen. So before we get into those changes that Karen was just talking about, we'll quickly review the purpose of the PPR. So as you already know, the PPR is in place to collect specific data related to your project. And then this data is used by OCS to determine how the project is performing throughout the project period. The data includes how many jobs are being created, how many individuals with low income are filling these positions, and how many businesses are being created or expanded. And this allows OCS to identify projects that may need further assistance. It also allows OCS to aggregate the data across projects to show the program's value and the project's contributions to the community. The PPR includes 3 forms. The first is Form A, which collects the quantitative data and is the most in-depth. It consists of 30 different indicators, which are broken out into 4 categories of information to track. So businesses, positions created, employees that are filling these positions, and funds leveraged. Form B collects the qualitative information that expands on data that you provide within Form A. This form is made up of 4 sections: the project description, which includes the project strategy, and an accomplishment section, a challenges section, and a changes section. This form allows you to further express why a certain indicator in Form A may or may not have been met, and kind of expand on the story of your projects. And Form E includes the financial information related to your project, such as leveraged finances. The PPR also includes a cover page, which displays some basic information about your project, such as location and your organization name. And as a reminder, the PPR is a semi-annual report that you are required to submit through OLDC in April and October. The 6-month reporting periods are from October 1st to March 31st and from April 1st to September 30th. So for the reporting period that just ended on March 31st, the OLDC system is open and you have 1 month to complete and submit your report, which is due April 30th. So you received an email from the OCS registrar recently reminding you to go into OLDC and submit your report by the end of the month. I'd also like to quickly review how to access your PPR in OLDC. So some of you are reporting in OLDC for the first time for your new FY 2017 grants. If your 2017 grant is the first CED grant that you have ever received, the project contact and authorized official of your organization automatically receive a Grant Solutions username and password. However, you do not automatically receive access to your 2017 grant in OLDC. First-time CED grantees received guidance in previous webinars and in correspondence from the OCS registrar about gaining access to your new grants. But just as a reminder, if your 2017 grant was the first CED grant you've ever received from OCS, your project contact and authorized official must complete the request for OLDC access form to be able to access your 2017 grant in OLDC. Most of you have already done this, but you can contact us if you still do not have access to your 2017 grant or you don't think anyone at your organization has completed these forms. And some of you have received a new 2017 grant, but your organization has received CED grants in the past, and you'll go ahead and use the same Grant Solutions account for your 2017 grant as you do for all your other active grants. And to gain access to your new 2017 grant in OLDC, you don't need to complete the request for OLDC access form like a brand new grantee would. Instead, you can just send us the username that you use to access the OLDC system for your other active grants, and we will grant you access. So you'll want to send that information to the OCS registrar at icf.com. I think a lot of you have already done this, but if you still need access to your 2017 grant or you're just not sure if anyone at your organization does have access, contact us. And you'll want to do this as soon as possible because these PPRs are due April 30th. And finally, for those of you who are reporting for CED grants awarded prior to 2017, you'll continue to use your existing Grant Solutions login credentials to access OLDC and submit your PPRs. Unless you have a new staff member who needs access to OLDC, you don't need to take any additional action prior to submitting your PPR due at the end of the month. And if any additional staff members at any of your organizations, whether you're a new or returning grantee, do need access to Grant Solutions or OLDC, they must complete and submit the correct forms to do so. So this slide provides some information about the steps for gaining access to Grant Solutions and OLDC. So if additional staff need to access these systems, you can kind of refer to this chart. And if you're still unsure how to gain access to one or both of these systems, contact us at OCS registrar and we can provide some additional information and guidance. So I think regardless of whether you're a new or existing grantee, you should go into OLDC as soon as possible and make sure that the correct people at your organization do have access to your PPR in OLDC, and if not, contact us and we can help you do that. And then once you do have the appropriate access to OLDC, you can enter the system and complete and submit your PPR. Again, as a reminder, you access OLDC through the Grant Solutions login portal at grantsolutions.gov. And the Grant Center of Excellence homepage will appear, and that's where you enter your username and password. Once you're in Grant Solutions, the grants list screen will appear, and you'll notice many different options in the top menu bar depending on your access level. To access OLDC, you'll select the online data collection option from this menu bar, and the OLDC Home screen appears in a new window. If you're a returning grantee with an existing Grant Solutions account that you have used in the past, after logging into the system, you'll be taken directly to the Grant Solutions homepage, which will display that My Grants List screen that I was just talking about, and like you see here on your slide. So to access the online data collection system, you'll select the menu item at the top of the screen, Online Data Collection, which is highlighted on your screen, and it'll look similar to Screenshot A on this slide. If you're a first-time grantee who just received your Grant Solutions login credentials, or if you're a staff person who has only access to OLDC and not the different features within Grant Solution, your login screen may look a little bit different. And this is just a result of Grant Solutions changes that were recently rolled out. So when you log into Grant Solutions, rather than the menu item at the top of the screen, Online Data Collection, like in Screenshot A, it might have just the acronym OLDC listed. Or when you log into Grant Solutions, you may see an option called Reporting and Monitoring, and you'll select this option and then select OLDC. So it might look similar to Screenshot B on this slide. So depending on your level of access and when you created your Grant Solutions account, it might look a bit different on how to access OLDC. So once you log into Grant Solutions, if you're not sure how to access the online data collection system, just contact us at OCS Registrar. Okay, now we'll go into detail about the changes made to the PPR. So the new changes to the PPR will take effect in April of this year. So the first time you will see the updated PPR is when you start reporting in April for the PPR due on April 30th. And some of you may already be in your reports working on them, so you will already see the changes rolled out. As Karen mentioned, the PPR has been updated to clarify language to ensure you're better able to understand the report. Outdated indicators were removed and existing and new indicators were updated to gather some additional information, and this isn't to kind of increase the burden on grantees to report, but rather to ensure all project performance is being recorded. The cover page of the PPR had only minor updates that did not change the way you review or update information on the cover page in any way, and there were no changes made to Form E within the PPR. So you'll continue to report on Form E like you have in the past. And if you're a new grantee that's never reported for your new grant, Form E has not changed at all from the guidance we provided in the fall. So the changes were made to Form A and Form B, and we'll walk through those changes today. And we'll start with Form A. Language was added to several indicators in Form A to further clarify that the indicator is asking you to report data for individuals with low income only. And this slide shows some examples of the former PPR language versus the updated language. This update was made to indicators A05J through A12J, which focus on the positions created for low income individuals. And it was also made an indicator A15E, which is actually a new indicator added to the PPR, and we'll discuss that next. This was an important update since it has always been the case that all the indicators in Form A collect data on individuals with low income only, with the exception of indicator A00J. A00J asks for the total number of full-time positions created for both low income and non-low income individuals. AOOJ is the only indicator in the PPR that asks you to collect data for non-low-income people. So this update makes it clear that all indicators besides AOOJ collect data for individuals with low income only. So this slide shows the rest of the indicators that were updated to clarify that data should be reported for individuals with low income only. Again, this update to the language doesn't change the data that you're collecting. It just makes it more clear that this indicator is only asking you for data for low-income individuals. The other changes to Form A include the addition of an indicator and the removal of another. So the new indicator added to the PPR I just mentioned, indicator A15E, collects information on individuals with low income who have received certifications in their CED created position. If the employees you hire do not receive certification, it's okay to report 0 on this indicator, but the addition of this new indicator provides you with the opportunity to report on this data if it applies to your project. So you get credit for those jobs you create that the employees receive certifications. This is important because certifications can help employees advance in their careers and possibly receive job promotions or raises. And the CED program aims to create quality jobs for individuals with low income to help them become self-sufficient. So this indicator provides OCS with helpful information on the quality of the jobs your project is creating and the opportunities for the employees filling these positions. And the last update to Form A was the removal of indicator A30F, which collected data on program income generated for your project. So moving forward, you no longer have to track program income for your CED project for the purposes of the PPR. And because of the addition and removal of these indicators, you'll also notice the numbers associated with the indicators have changed a bit in the PPR. For example, the total dollars leveraged by your project used to be A25F, but now that an additional indicator has been added, it is now A26F. So just be mindful of this while you are reporting so you ensure you are putting in data for the correct indicators and some of the numbers have changed. And this slide shows what the PPR looks like with the addition of the new indicator A15E, which asks, again, for the number of low-income individuals who received a certification for a full-time position created. And as I just mentioned, you'll notice that the addition of this indicator changed the numbers of the following indicators. Previously, indicator A15E asked for the total number of low-income individuals, including TANF recipients employed in the full-time positions created, and now with the new updates to Form A, this is now indicator A16E. So just pay close attention to this when reporting in your PPR, especially for those of you who have completed PPRs in the past. You may have gotten used to identifying certain indicators by number. So just remember that some of those have changed and to read the PPR closely and not just rely on the indicator number, but also the text of the indicator. So now we'll go over the updates made to Form B, the narrative form of the PPR. Similar to Form A, the changes to Form B really consist of language updates and the addition and removal of some indicators to really ensure grantees are only reporting on relevant information that accurately depicts the progress of the CED project. So I mentioned earlier, Form B is made up of 4 different sections. So first, I'll focus on the project description section of Form B. It's the first section, and it includes indicators A01 through A09. The first change just clarified some language. Indicator A01 was renamed from Project Strategy to Project Strategy and Update. This is where you provide a short description of your project strategy. And this was renamed to also indicate to you that if your project strategy does change throughout your project, you should update it here and also work with your program specialist anytime there is a change to the project strategy, since a change of scope needs to be approved by OCS. The next change is a new indicator was added to Form B. This is indicator A06. It allows grantees to provide information about the composition of its board of directors. So you can include the name and positions of the board of directors here. Previously, grantees only included information about their board if it had changed, which was done in the changes section of Form B, which is the last section, but this was added here so you can include the makeup of your board of directors the first time you report. And finally, some language was added to clarify that for indicator A09, which previously only asked if your organization created a revolving loan fund. The wording of the indicator was slightly updated to clarify that grantees should provide information here if their organization created any type of loan, not just a revolving loan fund. The indicator now asks, will or did your organization create a loan or revolving loan fund with CED funds? So this was updated to just include any type of loan, including revolving loan fund, but also any other type of loan your project might be doing. So here is what the project description section now looks like. On your slide, you'll see any updates or new additions are in red. So the changes are relatively minor, and again, notice that the addition of any indicator did affect the numbering of others. So just pay close attention to that when you're reporting, that you're providing the correct information in the correct field. The next sections of Form B include the highlights and major accomplishments and challenges and resolution sections. And here, new indicators were added and others were removed. And on the image on your slide, it indicates to you the changes to these sections that were made in red. So in both sections, a new indicator, B11 in the highlights section and C11 in the challenges section, was added to allow grantees to provide information on the status of their NFI or notice of federal interest, if that's applicable to your project. If your project will generate federal interest and acquire real property, you must file an NFI with the Office of Grants Management. And a copy of this document must be sent to OGM as a grant note through Grant Solutions before the conclusion of your project. This update that includes this new indicator allows you to indicate to your program specialist in OLDC whether or not you have filed your NFI in Grant Solutions if it applies to your project. So it lets your program specialist know kind of where you're at in doing that, and serves as a helpful reminder to grantees to ensure the submission of required forms and documentation. So if you have indicated that you have not yet filed it in Grant Solutions, this indicator will provide you with a reminder that you should do so as soon as possible. Also note that if your project used CED funds to acquire or renovate real property, and you establish federal interest in that property, you must also submit the SF-429 Real Property Status Report form. And as of July 2017, this form is now required to be submitted annually, 30 days after the end of the fiscal year, and it's submitted through OLDC now. So you should refer to your Notice of Grant Award and Grant Solutions to get information about whether you need to complete the 429 or file an NFI. If after you review your Notice of Award, you're not sure whether or not you're required to complete the SF-429, the NFI, or really any other forms, you should contact your grant management specialist and your program specialist, and they'll be able to advise you. Another new indicator that was added in both sections, it was B12 in the highlight section and C12 in the challenges section. This indicator asks grantees to provide information on if the jobs created involve flexible work policies. In the 2017 CED funding opportunity announcement, it was required that applicants demonstrate that participating businesses were to create new full-time jobs with certain benefits, including predictability and flexible scheduling practices. So this new indicator allows grantees to explain how the jobs their projects are creating are doing this, and to provide information on any challenges this has presented, including predictable and flexible scheduling practices for the jobs. And finally, both sections removed the evaluation indicator from Form B, which was formerly indicator B12 and C12. This indicator asks grantees to report on project evaluation. So for the purposes of the CED program and the PPR, grantees do not need to provide information on any evaluation associated with the project. And finally, the last section of Form B allows you to provide information on any changes to the project. So in this section, indicator D08 was updated from board leadership to composition of board of directors or board leadership. This mirrors the update to the project description section that we just discussed. So in this changes section, you will document any changes to the board that occur over the course of your grant. And the evaluation indicator that was previously D11 was also removed, just like in the previous two sections. So those are all of the changes made to the PPR, and as you can see, most of the changes are minor and aim to make reporting more clear and the PPR indicators easier for grantees to understand and report on. These changes also were made to provide OCS with the data needed to better evaluate project progress and provide grantees with technical assistance and resources when necessary. So now I'd like to review some of the many resources available to you to help with the PPR. First is the PPR information page, which you can access from the CED page of the OCS website. The PPR information page is really your go-to source for materials to help you with your PPR and reporting in OLDC. It provides you with information on how to better understand indicators that you report on with the PPR and getting access to OLDC and submitting your reports there. Today's webinar just went over the changes and updates to the PPR, but if the PPR is new to you and this is your first time reporting, you should review the variety of resources and webinars available on the PPR information page to help you better understand all of the indicators in more detail. Specifically, you should take a look at the PPR forms and instruction document, which provides sample PPR forms and a thorough description of each indicator. And you should take a look at the understanding reporting requirements and collecting data presentation materials, which go into more detail about all of the indicators that make up the PPR. There's also a frequently asked questions document that provides answers to frequently asked questions regarding data collection, accessing grant systems, the PPR, using OLDC, and more. There's also a number of different webinars posted on this page that go over accessing your PPR and OLDC, navigating the system, and how to submit high-quality PPRs. Another very useful tool that's available on the PPR information page is the data collection tool, and we're excited to announce that we recently made updates and improvements to the data collection tool. Depending on how much time we have at the end of today's presentation, I can pull up the tool and show you some of those changes for those of you that haven't seen it. But the data collection tool is an Excel-based tool that's designed to make it easy for any grantee to collect all of the data that you need to fill out Form A of the PPR. The tool helps you clarify exactly what information you need to be collecting, and it calculates all the information needed for Form A of the PPR for you. After filling out the tool, you still need to log into OLDC and submit the forms of the PPR there. This tool does not automate the submission of your forms. However, it helps you with the data collection process and makes it easier when you are submitting the forms in OLDC to make sure all of your data is together and to avoid any data entry errors. So some of the recent updates that we've made to the data collection tool includes the tool has now an updated look that's more user-friendly. You have a clear option to either start tracking data from a brand new grant or continue collecting data for an existing grant for a new reporting period. So this is a brand new feature. You're also now able to personalize the tool for your grant by displaying the project name, grant number, and reporting period. So this is especially helpful for those of you that have multiple active grants. We've also built in some data checks and validations, so the tool lets you know exactly when you have entered invalid information to avoid this from happening when you enter the data into OLDC. The tool also now reflects the indicators included in the most recent version of Form A of the PPR, which were the updates that we went over today. And finally, the update also now allows you to collect data for indicator AOOJ in the data collection tool. Again, this is the only indicator in the PPR that asks for the total number of jobs created for both low-income and non-low-income people. Previously, the data collection tool did not collect data for this indicator, and you had to track it separately. So this new version allows you to collect data for positions for both low-income and non-low-income people, all in one place. And it's important to note that indicator AOOJ is still the only indicator in the PPR that asks you to provide data on jobs for non-low-income people, and all other indicators only ask for data on individuals with low income, which you'll see in the recently made language updates that is further clarified in Form A of the PPR now. So we encourage all grantees to use this tool to track their data for Form A. If you're using the previous version of the tool to track data for older grants that are still ongoing and you would like to switch over to the new version of the tool, contact us at OCS registrar at icf.com and we will advise you on how to transfer your data into this newer version. And this tool is also available to download on the PPR information page. So like I said at the end of today's call, if we have some more time, I'll pull up the new version of the tool and kind of walk you through all of the changes. In addition to the PPR information page, if you go to that page and you review the resources and you still have questions about any of the new indicators or updates to the PPR, feel free to contact your program specialist who can provide you with assistance and help you make sense of the data for your PPR. And you can always contact us at the OCS registrar at icf.com if you have any questions or require technical assistance for reporting on the PPR, or if you have questions on whether you have access to your PPR and OLDC. So with that, we will open it up to questions. So remember that you submit your questions in writing through the Q&A portion in the lower right-hand corner of your screen or through the chat feature. So go ahead and submit any written questions that you have now. And while we wait for questions, just a reminder, you will be able to access a recording of this webinar as well as the PDF of the slides on the CED page of the OCS website. And more information on accessing these materials will be provided in an email following the presentation.
And Whitney, this is Laura, also from ICF. We do have one question on the line, more of a point of clarification that someone was interested in, asking for confirmation that the updates to the PPR that you've just gone over are reflected in the current reporting period inside OLDC. And so the answer to that is yes. If you log into OLDC and open up the PPR for the reporting period October 2017 through March 2018, which is what you will be reporting on right now. You will see all of these updates in the version of the PPR there. And note that any information you've submitted in PPRs for prior reporting periods will be in the previous version of the PPR. So we just wanted to clarify that just one more time.
Great. Any other questions, Laura?
That is all at the moment. So folks, if you do have questions, now is your chance. Feel free to type those in. Meanwhile, Whitney, maybe you can give us a demo of the data collection tool.
Sure. So I'm just going to switch over to be able to share the tool with you, so just give me a minute. And if you have questions about any of the indicators that we just went over, feel free to still submit them while I'm showing you the tool, and Laura will jump in and we can go over the question. So let me know when you can see the Excel data collection tool, Laura.
We've got it. Thanks, Whitney.
Okay, great. So this is the updated version of the tool. So if you've been using it in the past, you notice that it looks slightly different. It's still 7 tabs that go over, kind of walk you through the different indicators that Form A of the PPR asks you for, but just with a slightly different look and some changes to make it more user-friendly. So the Start Here tab is what you see on your screen. This basically provides some instructions on just generally how to use the tool. One new feature that you can see on the right-hand portion of this slide is the light bulb icon. So if I select this icon, instructions and key tips on using the tool will pop up. So once you start using it, if you've never used it before or you just kind of want a quick reminder of how to use the tool, you can select this icon and it'll give you some instructions and some key tips. So since this is the Start Here tab, these are just kind of general instructions, and throughout the other tabs, they also have this light bulb option that provides more specific information for the specific tab that you're on. So this provides tips and instructions for the Businesses tab, and the Positions, Employees, and Leveraging tabs also have this icon that can provide you some specific instructions when you're entering that specific data. So when you arrive on a new tab, especially if you've never used the data collection tool before, we recommend clicking the light bulb first and reading the text so you know what to do. Another new feature on the Start tab is the option to either start collecting data for a brand new grant or to continue with an existing grant. So this Start a New Grant option is what you select if you're reporting for the first time on your grant. So any new 2017 grantees using the data collection tool would select this option when starting to use the tool for the newly awarded grant. But for returning grantees, as you continue to use the tool throughout the reporting periods for the same grant, when you open your data collection tool, you'll select the Continue with the Existing Grant option. And you'll also see the current reporting period box here where you're able to select which reporting period you are now collecting data for. So if I'm a returning grantee and I open my data collection tool and I want to report for the next reporting period, I'll select the reporting period radio button that I need. And you can select whichever, so this is for whatever reporting period you are reporting for at that time, and clarify the year, and then you go ahead and continue with an existing grant. So this is a nice new feature that helps whether you're starting a brand new grant or if you're continuing with an existing grant. So once you start a new grant or continue with existing, you'll go on and move on to the Businesses tab. So something that you'll notice here is in the left-hand corner, it provides you with your grant number and allows you to kind of customize the name of your project, and it includes the reporting period. So back on the Start Here tab, if I would have selected the Start a New Grant option, a pop-up would have came up that allowed me to name the project and add information like the grant number. I didn't do that because I don't want to override some data that I have populated in here to show you, but that's what will update this section of the Businesses tab. So this tab is where you'll keep track of all the businesses that you helped create or expand, and also you'll notice the light bulb option on this page. Another new feature throughout all the tabs that was updated with this new tool is the data validation section, which you see here. So if I name a new business and I go through and I add the start date, but I forget to indicate whether the business was created or expanded, the cell will highlight yellow, so I know that I am either missing information or the data that I entered is incorrect. And then here in the data validation section, it'll explain to you what the error actually is. So you'll see a highlighted in yellow cell. It might be fairly obvious to you what you forgot or what you needed to do. So here it's pretty obvious that you just need to select something from a dropdown. But for some of the less obvious errors, it might be you might not really figure out why you're getting the error message. So this data validation section is nice because it explains exactly why you're getting an error. And this was really done to kind of help avoid data entry errors and ensure the accuracy of the information before you go into OLDC. For those of you that have reported before, you know that if you have a data error in OLDC, it won't let you submit it. So if you use the data collection tool, which mirrors the validations that are in OLDC, it'll help you kind of avoid making those mistakes and receiving those error messages when you're in the actual system. Next is the Positions tab. For those of you who have used the tool in the past, you'll notice a slightly updated look, but all the same information. It allows you to select the business that you entered in the previous tab. As you already know, the data collection tool does kind of pre-populate throughout these tabs. So you're able to select a business you created and then enter the information about like the title of the position created, the dates it was created, and any of the benefits that the position offers. Again, you'll see that these highlighted yellow cells let you know when a data issue has occurred. So one of the less obvious errors that you might make is you might select a business and then incorrectly enter in the creation date. So this business in the previous tab we indicated was started on October 30th. But if here I enter that the position was started September 30th, that would mean that the position was created before the business was created, which is not possible. So I get this highlighted cell, and I'm still not sure why I'm getting the error. The position creation date is before the business start date of 10/30. So then I know I just kind of made a mistake and can go back and correct it. The Employees tab also provides all of the information that you need for all of the employee indicators within Form A of the PPR. So again, you'll notice this light bulb icon that provides you with some information as you're entering employee data. So you'll be able to select the business name from the previous tab and populate the position that you entered in the previous tab. So this is really why it's so helpful to use the tool, because all the information is there for you. And then it asks you all the questions in the tool that will allow you to populate all the indicators in OLDC. There's also a leveraging tab, so if this applies to your project, for some of you it may not. It allows you to enter in the amount leveraged by source, which is how it's asked of you in the PPR and OLDC. And then as you kind of enter information in all of these tabs, it calculates for you in the Data for Form A tab, which is a replica of what the PPR looks like in OLDC. So once you're done kind of entering in all your information, you can go to this Data for Form A tab and just go through your data carefully, make sure it all makes sense, make sure the calculations are correct, and then you'll be able to go into OLDC and just kind of copy and paste this data right into the system. Then you can go ahead and submit your report in OLDC so your program specialist can review it. You'll notice on this tab there's a click to finalize your records button. So this is what you select when you've submitted the data in OLDC and your program specialist has reviewed and approved the report, and then there's no more action needed for you in OLDC. At that point, you'll select click to finalize your records, which will finalize your data in the data collection tool. We recommend that this is kind of your last step in reporting, so you want to wait until your report is accepted before selecting this button, because once you do, you can't go back and change anything within the tool. And then in the Records tab, it'll populate throughout your grant. Every time you select Finalize Your Records for a reporting period, it will just keep adding on here, so you have a repository of all the data you've collected across your reporting periods right on your computer. So this tool is really to kind of help you collect data throughout your reporting periods. You don't have to wait until April or October to use this tool. You can use it as new businesses and new jobs are being created throughout the 6-month reporting period. Keep adding to this so when it comes to time to report, you can just kind of look over your data, check the calculations, and report. So this is a very useful tool. If you're not already using it, we strongly recommend that you start. If you have any questions about using the tool, you can contact us at OCS Registrar and we can walk you through that. Also, it's important to remember that using the tool and entering the data here does not substitute actually submitting it in OLDC. So this tool is to help you collect the data, but you always have to take this data, submit it in the OLDC system to your program specialist. So that was kind of a quick overview of the data collection tool, but on the PPR information page, there is a more in-depth webinar on how to use the tool and collect the data and some other instruction document on using the tool that you can refer to as you're collecting your data. And again, if you have any questions when using the data collection tool, we recommend that you send them to us at OCS Registrar. So any other questions about either the tool or any of the indicators that we went over today?
So Whitney, there is one question about the data collection tool. Can you just give a sense of what happens for grantees who have been using the data collection tool for their existing grants and want to go ahead and switch to this new one? How do they go about doing that, and what steps do they need to take?
Sure. So if you have been using the older version of the tool, we do recommend that you start using this new version since it accounts for the new indicators in the system. So if you do need to do that, you can send us the current tool that you're using to the OCS Registrar at icf.com, and we can help you to transfer your existing data from your old tool into the new version of the tool. So anyone that wants to use the new version of the tool that's been using an older version, you can transfer your data, and the OCS Registrar is happy to help you do that. Any other questions?
There are no other questions on the line right now. Folks, if you have any questions that you would like Whitney to address, please feel free to type them in.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes, so if anyone has any questions, definitely send them in, and if not, or you come up with questions as you're reporting, always send them to us at OCS Registrar. Karen, do you have anything to add while we kind of wrap up and wait for any last-minute questions?
Thank you, Whitney. No, I just want to thank our grantees for taking time out of their, I'm sure, already busy and jam-packed day And I thank you, ICS, for your presentation.
Thank you, Karen. Any last-minute questions, Laura?
Nope.
Okay, with that, I think we can wrap up today's call. As always, if you have follow-up questions once you're reporting or using the data collection tool or anything related to the PPR and OLDC, contact us at ocsregistrar@icf.com, or you can contact your program specialist. So thanks for joining.